What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Attack on Cowboys. And today, we are going to talk about some of the needs that the Dallas Cowboys still need to address because they have been busy in NFL free agency this season. And quite frankly, if you actually look at it by the numbers, they've actually been one of the more busy teams in the league. And they actually still have some room left, quite a bit of room left on their salary cap, over $30 million to be exact, to still make some extra moves. And that's before even tacking on the Micah Parsons extension and the room that that's going to create. So I want to go through each position on the Cowboys and briefly discuss whether or not I think that they're good there. And we're going to identify which positions are the actual needs left remaining on this team, because I feel like some fans are all over the place. People don't know if we need an offensive lineman, a running back, a receiver, a D lineman, a linebacker. A lot of people just really don't know. And I want to cue you guys into some of the thinking of the coaching staff as well as it pertains to some of the guys that they like, some of the guys that they don't. And this information is coming from insiders that would actually know and have had conversations with these coaches about these players. So without further ado, be sure to subscribe for more Dallas Cowboys content on the regular, even during the dead period right now that we find ourselves in. Hopefully it picks up a little bit after the NFL draft. We start talking about some of these newer players. But let's get right into it. All right, so you can see here, we have the Dallas Cowboys depth chart as it currently stands. And briefly, I just want to go through each of these positions and kind of discuss which positions need to be addressed first. Quarterback, we're fine. There's no need to draft one. There's no need to sign another one. If Dak were to go down with some type of injury, I have confidence that Joe Milton would give us a show. I don't know how much we would win, but I think that it would be damn fun at least watching it, and he has some potential to be something, right? So not mad at the quarterback position at all. The running back position, this needs to be addressed, and there's probably going to be some hard decisions made about this position going into the season. Remember, teams can only carry 53 guys on the active roster going into the season, and with the other holes on this team and the other places they're going to need to utilize like kind of a depth versus a star player type of approach at those positions, there's no way you can go into the season with 5, 6, 7 running backs on the roster. And I think that you need to get your bona fide RB1. Right now, you have 2 running backs that have a specific design purpose. Miles Sanders, he's that breakaway threat. He can also receive it out the backfield. A Javonte Williams, that's going to be your short yardage guy. That's probably going to be your goal line guy. You need a running back that can take you from between the 20s, right? You need someone that's going to be able to actually help you drive it down the field, whether that be an explosive play, whether that be a consistent beat down, grinding that the Cowboys kind of want to move towards, that style the Cowboys want to move towards anyways. Whatever it be, you need a legitimate RB1. I do not have that much confidence in Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders right now. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, are they better than our running back room last season? Yes, those 2 guys by themselves are better if they add someone that's comparable to or better than a Rico Dowdle. I will say that right now. Our running back room is, in fact, in better condition, in better shape right now. And I know a lot of people will go back and look at Javonte Williams' tape, but something else you got to realize when you're looking at Javonte Williams' tape is just how bad that Denver Broncos offensive line was on a lot of those lowlights that people like to show over Javonte Williams. So I like Javonte as a short yardage guy. I like him using sparingly, like maybe 3 or 4 carries per game in short yardage situation where you need to power back someone you don't mind having to put their head down and potentially get nicked and bruised and might not be available for a game or 2 throughout the season. I like Javonte Williams in that role. I like Miles Sanders as the change of pace back. And I think that you need to go and get a guy in round 2 or 3 of this year's NFL draft. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Unless Ashton Jeanty is there at 12, I do not think there's a big enough separation of skill or separation of what you're going to get out of that player between an Omarion Hampton and the next 3 or 4 running backs that are kind of grouped in together right there. I really don't. Honestly speaking. So I am not part of team take Omarion Hampton at 12. I still feel like that's a little bit of a reach. Now, could he end up being a really good player? Yes. But I think that this is one of those NFL drafts, specifically at the running back position. This is one of those drafts, man, where like 10 or 12 of these guys are probably going to end up being NFL starters. Don't believe me? I'm going to tell you exactly which guys I think could possibly be an NFL starter when it's all said and done by the end of their rookie season. Obviously, you got a guy like an Ashton Jeanty. To me, he's the one running back in this class that is like, that has superstar projection, right? You're looking at him as a potential superstar. You're looking at him as going to be the next guy to kind of carry that torch for the position, at least for the next 3 or 4 seasons. I really, really like Ashton Genty. Trevion Henderson, I think that he's going to strike a lot of people almost as like an Aaron Jones type. Think Aaron Jones from Green Bay, now with the Minnesota Vikings. I think that Trevion Henderson is going to play that type of role at that running back position. I think he's going to be a good starter for probably a long time as long as his health permits. Cam Scatterboo, very, very interesting. I think he's going to be more of a gadget guy. He kind of strikes me as like a Peyton Hillis from back in the day. Any of you guys that kind of remember that name? He kind of strikes me as a Peyton Hillis. Is he going to be an every down starter? I don't think so, but I do think a Quinshon Judkins could. That's 3 right there. I do think that a DJ Giddens absolutely could be. He really reminds me of like a DeMarco Murray type with the way he runs. He's kind of like a one-cut runner, kind of straight up and down runner, doesn't run a real low pad level or anything. That's kind of the guy that he reminds me of. RJ Harvey, I think he's going to end up being an everyday starter. Omarion Hampton, everyday starter. I can easily see a Trevor Etienne being an every down starter, whether he's an average NFL back or a above average. That's to be seen, but I can easily see him being an every down starter. Bashal Tutin with that speed. Think the guy that they got over in Miami right now, I can't remember the dude's name, but he was like a fantasy football breakout star, Devin the Chain. Think about a Devin the Chain, Bashal Tutin, looking at a guy like that. A lot of people really like Caleb Johnson, Devin Neal out of Kansas, Brashard Smith out of SMU, Marcus Yarns out of Delaware. Hell, I think Jaden Blue is a really sneaky sleeper. So my point here is you do not have to draft the running back in the first round. I think you can get one in the second, third, and to be quite honest, depending on how the draft falls, you maybe can get one even later than that, unless 20 running backs go off the board, y'all, because there's still going to be some really good guys on that board in the 5th round, because this is one of the most abnormally deep classes for that running back position. So yes, let's draft the running back preferably in the 2nd or 3rd, but I don't think the sky is falling like last season if we get into the 5th and we still need a running back. I really don't. Although I'm saying 2nd or 3rd has to happen, bruh. Wide receiver. Y'all know how I feel about this. We absolutely need a wide receiver. I just don't feel comfortable going into the season with a Jalen Tolbert as our 3 and definitely not as our 2. And I don't think that, honestly, Kevontae Turpin needs to be on the field a lot as a wide receiver. I just think that he has a lot of work left as a legitimate receiving threat, and he's too easy to cover. Unless he's trying to take the top off the defense, you're going to use him out there to stretch the defense or something. He's too easy to cover, in my opinion, just because he still has a little bit more work left to do at that receiver position before he gets, to me, to an impact receiver level in the NFL where you can depend on him to be a reliable slot. I think we need 2 receivers. I'm going to be completely honest. I know Jalen Tolbert is probably going to make the team. Jonathan Mingo is 100% going to make the team. Ryan Flournoy is probably going to make the team. Jalen Brooks and Jalen Moreno-Cropper and Seth Williams, and I know they like Kelvin Harmon, but some of these other guys, I don't know. Again, it just depends on how many receivers they carry into the season, and this is why positions like running back or other positions may suffer because they need other receivers. They're going to draft the rookie, and then they're probably going to see who's the best guy out of the rest of those guys. So a rookie receiver in the 1st or 2nd round, gotta do it. You need a bona fide number 2 weapon on this offense. Right now, you got a Jake Ferguson who's like kind of ascending, right? And then you got the running back position, but you need a number 2 bona fide solidified weapon on the outside, and I think that that's going to open up this offense a ton. So receiver, you got to address that to me in the first 1 or 2 rounds. Have to. Day 1 or day 2, have to. Tight end. Honestly, I think they're good at tight end, although they've brought in some tight ends that would be like undrafted free agents, late round pick types. I think they're good at tight end. I like Jake Ferguson. Luke Schoonmaker showed some progress last season. Brevin Spanford. There's a lot of people who really love him in that building. And then you got a Hunter Lepke, right? He has to fit in there somewhere. He kind of plays that role where he floats between tight end and halfback at times, right? So I really like Hunter Lepke. So the tight end room, I think it's fine. I think you can save yourself a draft position and even a free agency acquisition in that tight end position. I think it would be a waste. The offensive line, the much debated offensive line room. I'm going to say this right now, man. I don't think our offensive line is nearly in bad shape as what people think. I think that you got to give these young guys time to develop. I think it's BS that people have already tried to write off a guy after his first season playing one of the most difficult positions in the entire National Football League with one of the most murderous row of opponents that any rookie has ever had to face coming in at that position by way of Tyler Guyton. I think that Terrence still fits what the team is trying to do, and I think the only real question is probably that right guard position, and I think that you're going to have a three-headed monster battling for that spot with Robert Jones, Brock Hoffman, and probably Sadiq Charles. I think that's what you're going to end up seeing right there. And, don't forget, we still are essentially too deep at every position due to the acquisitions that they've made, and to me, that's the biggest thing that they've accomplished in free agency is they've addressed the depth. At several positions, they've addressed depth, and I think that they're going to utilize the draft and maybe some post-draft moves to address getting those impact players that really can take this thing over the top. But offensive line, I think that you have enough investment there. You have 14 guys in offensive line room right now. Before the draft, before any of the cuts or anything that come after the draft or ahead of training camp, the post-June 1st cuts, you have 14 guys already in that offensive line room, and all 14 can make a case for being on the field up until you get to like a Jack Anderson, right? But Nate Thomas, TJ Bass, Earl Bostic, Matt Walesko, Brock Hoffman, Asim Richards, all these guys can make serious cases for being potential starters or at least battling for a starter position if something was to go wrong. And I've seen enough in guys like Asim Richards and, Nate Thomas and Brock Hoffman and some of these other guys. I've seen enough of these guys where I think that they really do have something to them, and they're potentially starting quality NFL linemen. So you got to start seeing what you got in some of these guys and drafting another lineman. It's just going to cause a damn traffic jam right there. So figure out what you got before you invest in that position anymore. And after this season, if these guys still aren't playing up to snuff, then yes, let's switch some pieces out. But let's let these coaches get their hands on them first, y'all. That's so important to me. Let the coaches get their hands on them first and see if they fit what these coaches are trying to do. Now, on the defensive side, I think the defensive side is honestly in a lot better shape than the offensive side. I think the linebacker position, we're perfectly fine. We're actually kind of deep at the linebacker position now when you actually take a look at it. You got Kenneth Murray Jr., Jack Sanborn, DeMarvion Overshown. He does return. Maris Leofow. And you still got Damone Clark kind of lingering around back there. So a lot of people have already written him off, but he could end up kind of filling in until Demo gets back. We really don't know how they plan to utilize him. Still got Buddy Johnson. I really like Buddy Johnson. You got Darius Harris. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs, right? So you got some good depth at that linebacker position, and I think they still plan on drafting a linebacker maybe a little bit later in the draft, right? I wouldn't be mad at getting like a later round guy, 5th round pick on a linebacker just to add a little bit more youth into that room, and if he's better than one of the guys that you currently have, then cool. But the linebackers, I think, are fine. The safeties, I don't believe the safeties are a big enough need to where it needs to be prioritized this offseason. Unless something just comes available and it's an easy upgrade, then yeah, sure. But Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, I think they'll be fine in Eberflus's defense. Then you got Izzy and Wanye Thomas on the bench behind them, and then Marquise Bell as well. So your safety room is honestly cool. The corners, that goes without saying. They absolutely have to address the cornerback room, and they absolutely have to address the defensive tackle room. Those, to me, are the only two glaring positions on defense that they need to address. Every other position, I'm willing to see what these guys have right there, even before the NFL draft. I'm willing to see what a lot of these guys have at the rest of these positions because their defensive ends are finding like 2 or 3 deep at that position. Their defensive tackles, they have 2 good ones. They have Osa Digizua, and then they did add a Solomon Thomas. We got to see what Mozzie Smith is going to give us. Add another legitimate one tech right there. You might have a decent defensive line room right there. The cornerbacks, to me, is the real one glaring hole on this defense, and I think that may be even a bigger glaring hole than the defensive tackles because at least you got bodies to throw at that defensive tackle position. The cornerbacks are so depleted, man, that you have to make a move right there. And I think that you have to address that early on, especially with the health of Trevon Diggs and how he's going to look with his future prognosis. DeRon Bland still coming off that foot injury. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy. I think you do need to kind of address the cornerback room. And I wouldn't be mad if that was like a 3rd round pick for the Cowboys. So in the perfect world for me, I think the draft would flow something like 1st round wide receiver, 2nd round running back, 3rd round cornerback. And then from there, you pretty much pick best player available because I think at that point you're going to slide into a defensive tackle with this super deep D tackle draft. I think you're going to slide into some of the other positions you may need to address some depth at. But I think as long as they address wide receiver, running back, cornerback, defensive tackle, this team is in good shape. And honestly, cap-wise, youth-wise, and just with the new culture and build of this team, I like what we've done. I honestly like what we've done, and this is without adding any more impact players via free agency or anything. So if they just draft guys, maybe 2 or 3 guys that can come in and start immediately, a receiver, a corner, and a running back, if they just draft those 3 guys, y'all, I mean, what are you really looking at on this team is like just these devastating holes that need to be addressed. Not really many. I think that people have allowed all the injuries that took place with the Cowboys last season to kind of put their roster in lower regards than what they really probably deserves. But, you know, that's part of the game. It is what it is. But either way, that's what I think the Cowboys need to address still as it pertains to the NFL draft, free agency period. I still think they got a little bit of work to do, but honestly, I like the direction this roster is headed in. I like the size of a lot of these guys. A lot of these dudes are 6 foot and up, and I like the age. The ages are all like 24, 25-year-olds. They extended their window while still maintaining their vital pieces on the team. So I really like this, and if they have a solid draft, the sky's the limit for this squad. I'm just saying, y'all. But either way, how about them Cowboys? Let me know what you think about in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more Cowboys content.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.